morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopkina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate AI developments essential, important, and or optional. You can follow along. The articles are at gaiinsights.com/articles. And please let us know what you think. I have John, Ankaj, myself from our regular crew, and we have Chris Brock, who is joining us periodically. Thank you for joining, Chris.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. And then Paul just joined. Hey, welcome, Paul. All right, let's start with the first article. Ankaj, please.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Google, and they have introduced Gemini 3.1 flashlight built for intelligence at scale.
Yeah, Google keeps pushing models that are small but performant. What do you think about this one, John?
Yeah, everyday miracle going to give us an optional, but as we go back to the graphic we just had, it is a very great performant model, very relatively low cost of tokens. You can see only Grok really beats them on price on output tokens only, not even on input tokens, and the strong across a bunch of the benchmarks. Google, I would not want to be competing directly with Google. I mean, they're just killing it. They have more money than God, and they're fast. And I think at the Demis Hassablis, when you look at, if you listen to him talk, he says first we're going to solve intelligence, then we're going to solve everything else. And if you look at the way that they're going at the problem, that is really having agents that are great at planning and doing complex problems and so forth. They're a formidable competitor, but optional in this article.
Optional because it's just everyday miracle. It's assumed that they're pushing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, what did you think?
I'm sort of in the optional as well. I think that we're seeing models launch every week, and I know they're putting benchmarks out there, but being like an open claw sort of user now, it'd be nice as they start putting out benchmarks, they should also put out like use cases of what you can and can't use the technology for. So that's the one thing that has been in my mind recently. Anti-Gravity sort of turned off a little bit of their API access to that open source community, and so did Claude. So with that, like, what are these models' capability, but also who can use them? So I'd say optional, but I think there's another debate in the benchmarks we should see.
Okay, optional. Ankaj?
I was important on this one, Luda. I think if you look at the models that they have compared Gemini 3.1 flashlight against, so there's GPT-5 mini, there's Claude 4.5 Haiku, Grok 4.1 fast. So these are not the latest set of models from different foundation model vendors, right? What they're focusing is speed and cost efficiency here. And I think for a variety of tasks, or let's say 90% of the tasks, a model like Gemini 3.1 flashlight will do a very good job, and the speed and cost efficiency that they are offering here is unmatched, I would say. So for that reason, I think for scalable enterprise workflows, I think it can be a good model. For that reason, I was important that AI leaders should know about this one.
Okay, so important from Ankaj. Paul, you have deciding vote here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's definitely optional. But I do want to highlight the comments both John and Chris made about Google. I know two startups now, they fully believe that Google's going to win. So they're just only focusing on the Google stack. Second, Chris, I like your comments because I think that the basis of competition clearly has moved away from the benchmark. It's moved this orchestration layer, which has got part of this on and off and everything else. And we don't have a benchmark for the orchestration layer capability, and we need one, but optional for this.
Yeah, we'll have another article today talking about the user benchmarks or user processes benchmarks that will discuss this particular topic a little more. All right, but optional for this one. Let's proceed to the next one.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about OpenAI's data agent, which was built by 2 engineers and now serves thousands of employees.
Interesting. We had, Chris, this is yours, but we had a LinkedIn article sort of similar yesterday as a use case. They built this layer of intelligence and were able to serve up to the whole LinkedIn community from that layer of various apps and the like. Seems very similar. What did you think? Tell us what it is and what did you think, please?
So this article is going over essentially two engineers, and I'll say more in the finance side of the business. So not really like totally computer engineers as you would think traditionally, were able to use OpenAI internally against petabytes of financial data. So a big data stack. And essentially they created a chat bot that they can ask questions and create visual diagrams from very rapidly. So after prototyping it sort of as a small team, they were able to roll it out to their entire finance departments in ways that I believe has somewhat access control, but ease of use that things that would take 4 hours to a week to gather data sets are now taking minutes every time they prompt. So it's a use case from OpenAI saying that Codex can work and do this for the organization. It's not an overview on how they did it internally or a step-by-step. So I would say it's an important article. I think that the idea of putting AI in the workflow orchestration layer is what we're going to see from here on out in businesses. And OpenAI is essentially saying here, they're ready to do that for your company.
Right. They're not ready to pull out the tool and give it to everybody else or offer it to everybody else. They're going into enterprises with this knowledge to help them wire it this way, saying you can use Codex to do this. But yeah, it's context engineering, and they're doing a really great job at wiring and providing access to the underlying data. What did you think about this, Ankaj?
What was important on this one, Luda? I think there are two key things that they mention in the article. One is codex enrichment, which is similar to the LinkedIn article that we discussed yesterday, which was around context engineering. So basically, in this particular process, the codex analyzes important tables, pipelines, dependencies, ownership, and then saves that context so that the agent can retrieve it later. And then I think this is a very good example of context engineering, your permissions, your evaluation, observability, all built in around a common use tool that is Slack and IDs as well. So for that reason, I was important on this one.
Yeah, and this is the theme we're going to see in 2026. John, what did you think?
Yes, important for all the things discussed.
Okay, Paul, we're going important. I was bordering on essential, but they don't really tell you how they did it.
Well, I'm definitely important. I also think because software is so easy now, we're going to continue to see the velocity of new feature for the rest of this year. I mean, we have 200 days for the rest of this year, and we're marching to 2 IPOs. I mean, I think Claude and OpenAI may have at least 100 new product announcements in the next 9 months here. So the flood of new announcements should rarely surprise anyone now.
Yeah, and they're orchestrating internally to have the access and capabilities. So most of that layer was built by Codex. So the enablement and access to data was built by Codex. The annotation of data, it sounds like, was massively built by Codex. So this is like they are orchestrating internally to do more of these products pushes, I think.
Chris, are you a Codex user or Claude Code?
I'm using everything. Even with Open Router, I hit 150 million tokens in my first week of it. So I'm using every model that I can get my hands on right now.
I've got two people just raving about the pro version of OpenAI that has access to the Cerberus inference accelerator, just how incredibly fast that is for power users. So I think.
So I'm probably going to sign up. That's probably the next thing.
I think your definition of a power user, so that needs to be on your radar screen.
I will. I'll jump right in.
Okay, great. Let's go to, this is important. Let's go to the next one. Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one is a research paper which talks about how well does agent development reflect real world work.
Yes. So that's the paper I was referring to, Chris, to your prior comments about measuring the real work. So, Ankash, could you please tell us what's this about and rate it?
Sure, Luda. So basically, the authors of the paper, they are asking this question that whether today's benchmark, all the benchmarks on which we measure LLMs, they actually match the distribution of real jobs and skills in the market. And they did analysis across 43 benchmarks, 70,000 plus tasks against 1,000 plus US occupations. Their central finding is that the benchmarking effort across these 43 benchmarks, that's concentrated on computer and mathematical work, uh, which only constitutes 7.6% of the overall US employment. And other heavily digitized areas like management work or legal work, they are very sparsely covered. And at the skill level as well, they say that the benchmarks, they over-index on granular skills like getting information and working with computers. But these skills, they are only associated with small share of employment. So then they propose design principles to improve coverage, complexity, etc. of these benchmarks that are there. So we discussed a similar article, Luda, from Phoebe Yao, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, where she was making the similar argument that the current set of benchmarks are not useful for a wide variety of tasks. She was discussing verifiability of tasks against the benchmarks. So I was between optional and important on this one. I think leaders should understand that, okay, this is what is going on, and a wide variety of coverage across LLMs, across Gen AI seems to focus on computer and mathematical work, but they also need to understand the more subjective tasks that are being done in their organizations, and that they will have to develop their own benchmarks to measure LLM uh, coverage or expertise across those set of tasks. So maybe important on this one.
Okay, Ankash, important. John, what was your take on this one?
Yeah, I was going to give this one optional. I think I think this notion of mapping between real world work and the benchmarks is somewhat important. I just think that I keep having a problem with the way that we're thinking about work in the context of these things. I think we're in the early days of adoption, the restructuring of work. So I think any benchmark is going to be hard because the use of this technology actually transforms the way you do the work. So, it's kind of like trying to compare, automobiles to horses and like what horses can do. So it's a little. I don't think it's an important vector for our AI leader.
I was triple optional on this exactly for the reason, John, you just said, because it really a wrong question. Of course, we have the benchmarks to measure LLM performance for the things we can measure, but and now when it's used in the work at enterprises, nobody's using those benchmarks other than for selection of the models, maybe, right? But they're using the ROI, other metrics, efficiency of change of labor application, what different work-related metrics. And I don't think they will be applicable across the board necessarily. They will become initially very subjective. So I don't think it's the right question here.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
I would say it's optional as well. If you're in the space of thinking about launching orchestration agents and then those agents having agents underneath them or sub agents that they're operating, it's very important to start thinking of these things. I didn't really find this work totally helpful on my end, but I think it's an important concept that we're moving well beyond an LLM into focused task-based intentional agents. I think we're sort of moving into the intentionality age over just the intention or intelligence age, meaning it has like a movement forward into the future. So I think this is optional. And but it's an important thing to think about this year is like how quickly you can orchestrate agents, because it's going to happen so fast. A benchmark, it's going to be old by time you even read it at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going optional on this one. Paul?
Yeah, clearly optional. I know researchers need to research stuff, but we've talked repeatedly about focus on your use case and not what research benchmarks are. And Chris, I love the age of intentionality agents. That's well said.
And for that reason, we keep talking about evals and how important they are, but those are this is the right area to focus on rather than the metrics, generic metrics. Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Harvard Business Review, and it is titled How AI Damages Work Relationships and Where It Can Actually Help.
Yes. John, what did you think about this article? What is it about?
Yeah, I was going to give this an optional. I mean, I think that it makes a bunch of points around basically, do you turn to the AI for difficult and emotional situations? Does the AI model behavior, that is too, abrupt and unemotional, and then gives advice on how to, both use the models better, use their outcome better, and to inure the organization through, a set of steps to help you keep the tone of the organization human-like and not, too abrupt, and basically not to get sideways with the emotional substrate of the organization. And I don't know. I just to me, this is over focus on the implementation of one piece of technology. I think overall, it's the job of the leader in an organization to keep the tone, civil, productive, engaging, getting people to commit to the organization is a bigger thing. And AI's contribution to that, to me, is just one piece. And I don't think it's a unique piece. I think the more that people understand how to integrate the tone of AI into the culture of an organization, the more important it is. But going at this particular issue, I think for an ad leader is not a big deal. Now, if we're talking about a child psychologist or, people who are depressed or suicidal in their relationship to models and navigating the emotional landscape, yes, then it would be essential. But for the ad leader, I think it's optional.
Interesting take. John puts it as optional. Pankaj, what did you think?
Optional for me as well, Luda.
Interesting. So I was actually important on this one. Chris, where were you?
I was optional as well. I think John stated it really well. So I think there's certain use cases that this becomes very important. I also feel that if this is what your like HR team develops as their philosophy, like what we saw with Jack Dorsey, they laid off 4,000 people. AI, like I would feel that if I don't use AI to respond to you, I'm doing you a disservice at this point. Where she in this article sort of said it that you're taking the human out of the loop, or I don't care about you in conversation. I actually care more because I'm delivering a better delivery, So I think there's some things there. I think we should always keep humans in the loop. I think that valuable relationships are more important than ever. But I also feel that AI in our communication layer is not a sign of disrespect. And I sort of read it that way. That she feels that communicating is no longer person to person. So that's a problem that we do need to solve. But I think this is optional as an article.
Maybe as an article, it's optional. The area is hugely important. I would not necessarily agree with you, John. I think the space is important. Workplace dynamics are changing with the use of AI. They're changing quite dramatically. This communication layer needs to be watched. Whether this article suggests the right ideas, that can be argued, but I think that space is very important.
Oh,
Paul, I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree. It's very important. I just don't think AI is part of the soup. It's not the soup.
It's part of the soup. Yeah. Paul, what did you think?
Triple optional. I think for me, I think you could have written the same article about bank tellers. Oh my gosh, Luda, don't stop bank tellers, because there's such a relationship, Chris, between the bank teller and someone taking cash out. So we're talking about here is task automation. And what Chris was talking about was task automation that was AI driven for much simple tasks here. So I think that's the notion, and leadership counts, but this article is triple optional. And
I think that Luda's making a different point, which is that it's about the internal tone of the organization, and kind of what they're about, and you're talking about the customer interface with the automation thing.
That's very different. Yeah.
But you can use the same thing internally. I mean, so don't we have a relationship internally? We don't want to. Anyway, my point is that we're turning. When I agree with your point, Luda, it's an important topic here, but it's
an important topic, not necessarily the best article. Okay, let's rate it.
Let's put it this way: GAI Insights is not going to launch an initiative on this inside.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll put it as optional, but workspace dynamics are really affected by this and need to be watched. Okay, optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Gavin Baker, and it is titled "Some Thoughts Ahead of NVIDIA Tonight."
Yeah,
I love the fact I never thought of NVIDIA as the Hulk, but it's great. It's awesome.
So, Chris, could you please tell us what these thoughts are about and are rated?
Okay, so this article is really going over like sort of the future of NVIDIA, how much they've become ubiquitous with AI, and how much CapEx has gone into creation of data centers. And then will they lose steam? Is this initial investment going to be the first build out? And then it's going to be a trough of, so I mean, we've seen this sort of bell curve in so many different scenarios that when does NVIDIA lose its steam? And maybe they won't. And NVIDIA, I have a whole different understanding of them now. I listened to an Audible book, The NVIDIA Way, traveling back from Cyprus this week, and they're a phenomenal company. I think they're not totally going to lose steam. I think this is an optional but important concept too of just what's NVIDIA's future in the future of AI. Will they be the hawk? And that's where the picture comes from, or will they have another outcome? So I'd say it's an important concept. What does NVIDIA do? But an optional article.
Okay, optional from Chris. What did you think, John?
Yeah, I thought it was optional as well, but I love the what I liked about the reasoning is that it's about what if you look at the economics of GPUs as an indicator of the relationship between the AI bubble and real demand, and he makes the case that we're not going to see the kind of overinvestment as we saw in the past, because in fact he argues that the demand for AI is exceeding the supply. So it's not like the internet where the build out in fiber was way ahead of the demand for fiber, nor the build out in railroads. If you go back in the history of railroads were way overbuilt, and there's a lot of rationalization. He's saying actually that's not the case here, and the evidence he uses is the rental price of older GPUs, which I think is a great indicator for economic indicator for real true primary demand. So I think it's a heck of an argument. I think for AI leader it's optional, but I might make it important because it's interesting. It's really interesting, and NVIDIA is such a big player. So I've talked myself into important.
Okay, so John Important, I was also very, it's an interesting observation, and he ties the availability of the compute power and how it will temper the market growth and the like, and it's really interesting observation and maybe worth flagging it to AI leaders. What did you think, Ankash?
I was important on this one, Luda. I think for all the reasons that John mentioned, as well as if you see what's happening in the memory space, right? So the memory that these guys get from Samsung, it's 4 times the price now. Similar thing is happening with CPUs. So everybody is projecting that by 2027, there will be a huge shortage of memory, CPUs, and we are already seeing shortage of, maybe expecting shortage of power in the next 2-3 years, right? I think from that perspective, an AI leader needs to understand what is going on in the market from a GPU, memory, CPU perspective, and that they need to secure their own compute and their own power as well, so as to sustain their Gen AI operations maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, because everywhere there will be a huge demand and the prices will just go bonkers. So yeah, important for that reason.
Okay, Paul. He goes triple optional.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was optional. I mean, he's writing some good stuff here. I think it's important if you were an investment show. We're not an investment show here, and I think it's warms my heart that millions of people are so concerned about the capital money that NVIDIA is spending. Who cares? You know, AI leader can't even keep up with today's technology. So if NVIDIA never had a new development at all for the next 2 years, the AI leader still has plenty of work to get their organization to rapidly use this stuff here. So I think this breathlessness of, oh my gosh, there's a CapEx bubble out there. To me, when I hear, and therefore it's an excuse for me not to have to push my organization to use technology, or it's an excuse to see AI isn't useful. So optional for me, and this shouldn't be worth discussing in AI circles at companies.
Yeah, but Paul, I think you just made the case for why the AI leader wants it, which is he or she can say there's no, I mean, you talk about, let's take NVIDIA, like there's no bubble there. You know what I mean? They can just answer it.
Correct. There's certainly no bubble, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I got an agreement from Valda on the prior discussion. Thank you, Valda. Okay, so let's proceed with actually important on this one, Paul, because your argument actually supports an important rather than optional, because I think it's something to be thought about, and this bubble discussion is at the coolers everywhere, right? And this puts a damper on it and
well,
explains it.
And again, I want to separate. There's a bubble discussion in the financial markets on valuation and spend. There is no bubble debate on actual usage, which I think gets to.
But Paul, you made the case, and I agree with it, that a lot of people who don't want to adopt point to the financial bubble as a reason not to adopt.
Exactly. That's the argument. I noticed that I'm going important on this one because that's your argument. Okay, important it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, moving on to the last one for today. This is from AWS, and it's a case study about how Lendy revamped the refinance journey for its customer using agentic AI in 16 weeks using Amazon Bedrock.
Okay, Ankash, this is yours, please.
Right. So what Lendy Group did was they have built an agent called Guardian. So it's basically their home loan guardian, and it helps them proactively monitor mortgages and guide refinancing via chat-led interface. So they use the entire Amazon stack, Amazon Bedrock, guardrails, API gateway, etc. And they scan thousands of loans daily through this new agent. It tracks equity in real time, and it auto-populates refinance workflows using internal and external data. They claim that they have settled millions in loans through this new agent, and that they did it in 16 weeks, and some other outcomes as well. But it was a little light for me in terms of what they were able to achieve through this. On the other side, they share good amount of details, but still, I would say an optional read for an AI leader.
There was one outcome, Ankash, that without any paperwork, If a customer was monitoring through their system, they can reapply, change their loan in 10 minutes without any documents. This was incredible, actually. 10 minutes with no new documents. This is quite with whole bunch of competitive analysis and everything pre-arranged for you. I thought it was quite massive. What did you think about this, Chris?
I thought it was an important use case. I think that they outlined it really well. They are doing agentic AI in their workflow, and it's for an organization that could really see results quick. So I think that if you're in the space of looking to deploy, this is an important use case that you might want to know about.
John, we're running out of time here. Quickly, what do you think?
Important.
Paul?
Important.
Okay. Important it is. Any announcements, Paul?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone the learning lab that we had on Monday that 400 people signed up and 250 people attended on Claude Code and Open Claw is live in our, the recording is in the GAI Insights channel. And Chris, it was really a great, I think we may have to just rerun the whole topic again because there was so much interest and we barely got to all the questions that people had.
Yeah, it's just probably because there were two demos. We should focus on one. Okay, so for today, we had 3 importance and 3 optionals, the balanced day. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the comments. They were really cool. Brenda, Valda, Ashish, wonderful. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Chris.